Listener, you just started this episode. You've probably still got your phone in your hand. Send me an email with a question that you've been dying to ask a therapist. Send the email to matt@soberandunashamed.com.
Why would you want our listeners to ask you a question for a therapist?
I can sense that you're unsure of that logic.
Confused?
Well, let me tell you why. Because the question isn't for me. I'm just the messenger. It is for our quarterly Ask Laura episode of the Untoxicated podcast. Laura Hammock is a licensed clinical social worker and a mental health therapist. She works with adults, both individuals and couples, working through the impacts of anxiety, depression, ADHD, addiction, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, trauma, and relationship issues. What question do you want to ask a therapist if only you had a relationship with a therapist? Or maybe you do have a therapist and you want a second opinion. Ask Laura. Send your question via email to matt@soberandunashamed.com with Ask Laura in the subject. That's matt@soberandunashamed.com for Ask Laura. Okay, Sherry, I say with significantly elevated pride that you and I both attended Indiana University.
Yeah.
It's a good time to be a Hoosier.
Sure, yeah.
The Heisman Trophy is cool. For us old school Big Teners, like you and I are, the Rose Bowl win is special. But as a college and high school as a college and high school soccer coach or English football coach, I know how hard it is to go undefeated. So I think the sentence that is the most just astonishing and seemingly impossible to me is that the most recent Division I school to go undefeated in both men's basketball and football is Indiana University. Those words just do not compute. You and I, when we were at school, it was dangerous to go to the Indiana football games because like a football might fly up in the stands and hit you in the back of the head while you were turned around talking to your friends.
You actually went into the stands. I just stayed tailgating. Yeah. I mean, we didn't bother going in.
Yeah.
Because it was, pointless.
It just is amazing what has happened. But I know our audience doesn't tune in to hear about sports, but here is something that relates to our main core topic. I got a text on Tuesday morning, the morning after the national championship game, from a very good friend.
College football.
That's
right. Not everybody knows what you're talking about.
That's true.
Because some people are mostly like me and don't give two shits.
Yeah.
So,
well, like I think most people do understand, for whatever reason, they host these things on Monday nights because, they want unproductive work days on Tuesday, apparently, but that's when they make the most money. So Tuesday morning, I got a text from a very good friend, someone I had been a roommate with a couple of times during college. And I didn't know this, but he told me on Tuesday morning that he was actually in Miami and had attended the game. And he was very excited. He sent me pictures. But here's why this is relevant. I felt no jealousy. Isn't that shocking? I mean, national championship for a basketball school that just won a football title. You would think I would be jealous. But all I could think about is how shitty he must feel physically right now. And I thought about how great I felt. I got 7.5 hours of sleep Monday night, and I would not have traded places with him. Isn't that bizarre?
I
mean, are you with me, or did you wish you were there?
Because I wouldn't want to go there.
Even for a national championship?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you jealous of him on Tuesday?
Oh, I've never been jealous of him.
For any reason?
For any reason at all.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think I would be jealous about that. That's just because it's not my thing. Even if it was like the glory of, the college that we went to, our alma mater, and doing something that was just and I can even remember this, 2 years they've had this, this coach. And so they've built the team in 2 years, but I don't know if I would, I don't think I would be jealous of that.
Yeah. Well, I know that you know a little bit about it. I love it when you take an interest in sports because it's not your thing. And one of the reasons that I'm glad I wasn't there is because I got to watch the game with you and our 2 boys that are still home, that haven't flown the coop yet. And it was so much fun to sit there in the living room and just kind of eat snacks and watch football. And I love it when you take an interest. I remember back when the Denver Nuggets won their championship, and you went from not even knowing the name of any players or knowing what color the uniforms were or who the mascot is to being so excited that you almost put your hand through a ceiling fan at your mother's house
When I was mocking the way Jokic like doesn't look like he's a football player. He looks like he's be taking trees out of the ground with his forearms and bare hands.
Did you just say football player? No, then I get to a basketball team.
Oh, bad. I'm sorry. Did I say football? Yeah. See what you've been, don't switch gears on me that
but
much.
You were so, and then the same thing happened. You were excited then, and you were excited on Monday night.
Yeah.
When you were, in fact, they went
excited.
It was really funny because they went for it on 4th and 5 twice. And you thought it was like,
are you rewatching it again?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my level of knowledge.
You were watching, but you were also like folding or something at the same time. So you were multitasking.
Yeah.
Half of your attention on sports, though, that there's a lot to be said about that.
Mm-hmm.
But you also got a full night's sleep, and we woke up rested and not thinking we're in Miami and we got to go home now. Pretty great.
Yeah.
Great to be us. Sara, what is your sport and who is your team?
I saw this question and I don't have a sport or a team, so I'm just going to go with where I went to college. So, University of Kansas, the Jayhawks, and I'll go with their basketball team.
I went to basketball camp there when I was in high school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a great school. And now, just because you are not into sports doesn't mean you are not outdoorsy and athletic. We happen to know that you are an outdoors person. Is that safe to say?
I definitely am. I am outdoorsy, and I would now consider myself athletic. I did not when I was in college or below any of those times.
Well, you have built a log cabin in the woods with your husband, and if that makes you lumberjacky or I don't know, but it makes me envious of the accomplishment and the fortitude, both mental and physical, that takes. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Sara Kaufman Bradstreet is the host and producer of the No More Wasted Days podcast and the content creator behind No More Wasted Days on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. She has a fascinating story, and she and her husband got sober at the same time. And they did it while they were living in a camper or yurt or something like that and building a cabin in the woods. As if that's not stressful enough, they kept their twins from getting eaten by a bear through it all. But I've saved the best for last. Sara has what I have decided are the world's best facial expressions. So if you're listening to this podcast episode on Spotify or Apple or whatever, you'll just have to go later to check out No More Wasted Days on Insta or Facebook or TikTok. But for right now, first, let's help you fall in love with her. And then you can go see what a goofball she can be. Sara, welcome to the Intoxicated Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we're becoming fast friends. We love your story and we're loving getting to know you.
Yeah.
So I mentioned in the intro that you and your husband got sober at the same time. I'm genuinely curious. I think I know the answer, but I don't remember. I'm thinking about like when we say you got sober at the same time, I'm thinking about like, twins, like when they're born, one of them was born first, right?
Yeah.
And even if it's only by minutes. So who was sober first? And is that a point of victory or enthusiasm because it was a first versus second or contention? Yeah.
We're like twins, I guess. I mean, my twins are 1 minute apart, and I think me and Ryan were maybe 1 minute apart on sobriety. I came home from work one day, and he was reading the book This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, and while drinking a beer, he was still drinking a beer while he was listening to it, and he's like, I think I'm going to quit drinking, and it was the weekend of Mother's Day, and I was like... Okay. I was like, the hell you are, like on Mother's Day, because Mother's Day is when I would go on a bender because that's what moms deserve, right? So right. I was like, excuse me? So he was like, during that weekend, he was trying to kind of keep it chill already. And I was kind of like, you know what? I think he's serious about this. Like I could tell he was really doing it this time because we had talked about it. Both of us had talked about it at different times. So I think it was on Mother's Day. I think we both had one or two gin and tonics, and that was it. Those were our last drinks. And we had a house full of booze, and it was definitely spontaneous sobriety for both of us. And I started listening to This Naked Mind the next day on my drive to work, and it clicked. Like Annie Grace's story was so similar to mine. Everything she was saying, I couldn't even believe that there was a story out there so close to how I felt. And the fact that she started talking about, you can quit drinking without saying you're an alcoholic. And I needed to hear that because I didn't want to be an alcoholic. Oh my God. I don't want to be an alcoholic. And I laugh now because I definitely can see that I was an alcoholic. But I needed that permission. And the book gave me that permission. And Ryan saying, "Hey, I think I'm going to do this," gave me the push that I needed. And I fell in love with sobriety right away.
When you say spontaneous sobriety, for our listeners, you're just saying there was no going back, there were no relapses. Were there cravings though? Can you talk about that a little bit?
There's definitely cravings. I think I relate more with like triggers just because I feel like in the book This Naked Mind, she talked so much about how poisonous alcohol is, how terrible it is for you, and I became instantly turned off to it by then. And I am a health nut, but I was very much a health nut then, and I was like, how am I living this healthy lifestyle and I'm still drinking poison? I feel like I shouldn't smoke cigarettes. Like I only smoked cigarettes when I drank. I know those are so terrible for me. And oh my gosh, alcohol is at the same level. And that really spoke to me. And so I don't want to say that I had cravings for every now and then. It's like I would do yard work and I'd want a beer, which I consider more like a trigger. Like I did the thing that was like, I always do this thing, then I have a drink after it. So I had those that I had to negotiate,
Mm.
navigate. I had to navigate all of the habits that went along with my drinking. But I like, and I did have to navigate like the time of day that I wanted to drink, that I
Hmm.
was used to drinking. I had to get a different drink in my hand right away. And then I started navigating like the work that goes, the emotional sobriety piece and the being like, okay, I was drinking because I was so like, I wasn't even drinking to deal with my emotions. Like, look at me. This was so easy type thing. And then those things slowly came up later where I was like,
Mm.
oh, I drink to celebrate. I drink when I'm sad. I drink when I'm angry. And then I had to start navigating that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I can really relate to the things that you do that are associated with alcohol and having to break that association. Grilling
Yeah.
or mowing the lawn, those were big ones for me. Skiing. Yeah. That stuff is definitely real.
Well, it's such a
Hmm.
pattern. You've set up your life in this habit, like you mentioned, but pattern.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it like it's a pattern. Like I do this, and then I do this, and I do this, and that breaking that is
Was
really hard.
was Quit Lit, Annie's book and beyond, was that a part of dealing with what a lot of people like to call the witching hour, that day part when normally you would be drinking? Did
Yeah.
you read to get through that at all or listen to audiobooks?
I would listen to audiobooks during that time for sure. And gosh, Annie Grace's book was the one. This is going to sound terrible. The one Quit Lit book that I got all the way through, but I would
Oh
listen to
yeah.
other ones just to kind of get that story piece. It really helped me. And podcasts helped me a lot. I'm definitely a podcast person over audiobooks anyway. I think it's my short attention span. But I like a 30-minute bite size thing to come at me. But I would go listen to Annie Grace's podcast, and then I started finding other podcasts, which I didn't even know those things existed. So
Now,
that was
timing
really
wise, that
cool.
that was when Laura McCowan and Holly Whitaker were like exploding podcast wise, right? Or was it?
Yeah,
Didn't you quit like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, something
six
like
years
that?
ago. Yeah. So in
Yeah, yeah.
2019. Yeah. And because I would listen to Annie Grace's podcast, and then I started listening to the Seltzer Squad. I don't even know
Oh
if they
yeah.
have a podcast still. I was trying to see if they still do because I loved listening to them. And then it started to become Quit Lit and like self-help books too. Just like how can I better like Atomic Habits was huge for me when I quit drinking and realizing that drinking was such a habit and I could navigate my habits and change them.
We have a lot in common. Early on in my sobriety, when people would say, "Well, how did you get sober?" I would talk about, there's a formal word for it, right? Bibliotherapy, and they would say,
Hmm.
"What's that?" And I would say, just devouring Quitlet, and I would have a mix of. I would say I was about like 75% memoir. I wanted to hear the stories, like
Yeah.
Caroline Knapp and Sarah Hepola were huge for me, but then maybe 25% more clinical. I wanted to understand brain chemistry. That's where Annie Grace comes in. Um, but like that was my program early on. Were you going to meetings in addition to this? Like what was your program early on?
I did not do meetings. I told myself I would try it out for 30 days. And I was also told myself if I can quit drinking for 30 days on my own, that'll prove that I don't have a problem. Like I was really
Mm,
big on I don't want to have a drinking problem. I didn't want to I felt
right.
like it was a very big stigma to have a drinking problem and I felt like I had been building a life where it looked great from the outside to everybody. So nobody really knew that I was drinking so much. I mean, and the people I hung out with drank as much as me too. So I just didn't want to be the person who needed to do that. And now I can see how I feel like I would have loved it actually if I would have done it. But I kind of told myself if you can't quit for 30 days on your own, then you need to go to an AA meeting and I didn't want to go to an AA meeting. So I did what you did. I went and I just found as much information as I could. I started following different content creators. I started making my personality quitting drinking. Like
Mm,
before my personality was drinking and I was like I've got to change my identity. I've got to change how I'm going about my life.
that's great. Yeah, that identity piece I think is underrated or under talked about.
Yeah.
And I know for some people that's not a big deal. Just like for some people the label's a big deal, for others it's not. For some people the identity, but for me it was huge. I knew a lot about IPAs and I knew a little bit about whiskeys and like I was proud of that. And I look back now and
Yeah.
I'm like, that is such a dorky, who cares kind of a thing to be proud of.
Right?
But figuring out your identity. So I love that you made it not drinking. It's interesting you said when you got the sense that Ryan was serious this time. It doesn't sound like he came to you and said, "Say, hey Sarah, let's quit together," or "I need you to quit with me, or I'm not going to be able to." Did you always both have like individualistic paths about this? Were you relying on each other's sobriety at any point?
I don't really feel like we did because I remember even as I went on, I got very clear on like, I'm never drinking again. And I remember the first time Ryan went on a trip and he kind of said, I wonder if I'm going to drink. And I thought, God, I hope you don't drink. And then he was like, I'm not going to drink. But I didn't say anything to him. I was kind of like, well, I guess it's your call. You can kind of decide. And I know even when he quit, he said, I don't care if you stop with me, but I'm going to do this. And,
Hmm.
but I was also like, well, I'm not going to just sit around. Like we were each other's drinking buddies. So I was kind of like, well, I'm not going
Right.
to sit around and drink without you because then I'm just going to be getting, and I also wanted to change. I had talked about quitting drinking so many times and so had he. So it made it easier for me to take the leap because I knew he was doing it too.
So label aside, but there had to be like, what were the influences that made you want to quit? And was one of them like disagreements, marital disagreements? Like, was there contention in the relationship when you guys would drink?
We I, we definitely got into like bickering, kind of like I would get so irritated with him over things when I was drinking and it would ruin my buzz and then I'd be pissed at him because my buzz was ruined. Like things
Mm,
like you left the sponge in the sink and like those things where I say, "Hey, can you stop doing this?" his example right now is the avocado pit. Like, put the avocado pit in the trash can. But
Where
it's
do you
just
put
like
it? I'm really curious.
he puts it in the sink and it pisses me off.
Oh, he puts it in the sink.
Yeah,
Okay.
I put it in the trash can after I find it in the sink. I don't even eat avocados. But now when we were, but so it would be little things like that where I was just like, when I was drunk, I would think, oh, now I've got this liquid courage. Like I'm going to bring up this thing. And then it would start an argument. And then I would be mad. I would wake up the next day, not even really remember why I was mad at him, but I knew I needed to stay mad at him because I was mad at
Mhm.
him last night and I didn't want him to know that I couldn't quite remember why I was mad at him. And I would also, or if I could remember, I would realize how stupid it was. Those were probably our biggest moments when we were drinking. I mean, we loved to drink together.
Mhm.
We had a good time drinking together, but there were definitely when we would bicker, it was either around alcohol or because we were hungover.
Yeah, so that was one of the things I was going to ask if the tension from drinking and drinking times, if that carried over into sober times. It sounds like one example you gave was when you had a little blackout issue and couldn't remember why you were upset, and that would carry over.
Oh yeah.
Was was there was there tension in the relationship during sober times because one or the other had overindulged to a greater degree? Like, were you ever like, "Hey, you overdid it last night," and that was frustrating. Like, was that part of the
No,
bickering?
no, we were just big supporters of each other's drinking, as terrible as that is to say. Like, there was a time when I was pregnant and Ryan got so drunk and was puking, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to take care of him right now while I'm pregnant. I don't remember being angry about it though. I just remember being like, yeah, I mean, it could have been me. I'm just pregnant right now. And there were times when I would drink too much and I would be the one puking. He would take care of me. It's just like we were just so into partying together that it was like he nursed me through many a hangovers and I feel like without any frustration. And I was usually happy when he had a hangover because it meant I got to relax and chill.
Was the decision for sobriety for either of you to have anything to do with like the impact of drinking on your kids? Your twins are how old now?
They are 14 now.
So they were like eight-ish
Yep.
when you guys
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah.
Did they factor in, or were they too young at that point? Can you
They
talk
were
about that?
really too young to factor into it at that point. They didn't quite get it yet. Like they
Okay.
knew we drank. They knew we drank beers. They would go get us beers from the fridge. Like I remember being like, I can't wait till I can teach them how to mix a gin and tonic so then they can bring it to me. And I look back at that and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that was
Mm,
like one of my I can't wait till now I'm like, oh,
yeah.
thank God I never am going to teach them how to make a gin and tonic. They can figure that out themselves. But
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, no, I'm so happy we did it when we did. And it is something we talked about after we quit, like not with them directly. I do remember that we finally kind of told them, like, have you guys noticed we don't drink anymore? And they were so young, they were kind of like, oh, okay. Like that was, but now we talk about it and we try to have more open conversations about it. And especially they're both getting curious about alcohol and weed. And we're able to say, like, we're here to talk about it without judgment. But I often say, but just know, like, me and your dad definitely had a drinking problem. It's the possibility is there for you. But I'm also don't want to be like, you walk such a fine line with kids, you know? You
Yeah.
make it too forbidden, then it's like they'll want to do it just to almost spite you type thing.
I really thought when our kids were younger that we would be able to convince them never to try it. I thought we had that power in us. And then they got into their late teens, and our two oldest are in their 20s now. And you realize all you're trying to do at that point is hope that you remain kind of safe and supportive and
Hmm.
not in their face enough that they might come to you with questions later, or they might consider you a safe resource, because
Yeah.
the idea of control that I had, that was crazy that I even thought that. Now
Oh
we
yeah.
just try not to piss them off so that they'll be vulnerable around us really.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and that's
it's,
like my talks now really with them are please call me if you've drank and you need a ride
yeah.
home. Please call me if your friends need a ride home. Like I am a safe adult for you to call. And I always say, I won't be mad. I will be so happy that you called me so you're not driving drunk. And it's like, I feel like the thing that I am the really on them about right now is fentanyl. Like, do not take any medication from somebody.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that's my,
Don't
and
take
they're,
anything from anybody.
I know. And that's my thing. And they're always like, Mom, you're being crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, be aware. We all watched The Pit together. So that was our talking about it, going, see this kid on this show? He took fentanyl and he died.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Well,
okay.
I get it. I get that. Like from our 15, almost 16-year-old. And
Yeah.
I mean, I started talking about that because in Denver, it's very, very prevalent. Fentanyl
Yeah.
use is very prevalent, and it's snuck into other drugs or looks like candy. And he's like, "Mom, I'm not an idiot. My friends wouldn't have it." I said, "Maybe they don't even know they have fentanyl. Maybe they think it's something else. It's not that you have stupid friends or you're stupid.
Yeah.
It's just, you know,
Yeah.
it's out
It's like
there."
that. And like meth is very prevalent where we live. And that's one where I really do say, don't do it. Like, do not do
Yeah.
meth. It's not, it is so addictive. And I'll be like, alcohol is really addictive too. But I am just like, so there are things where, and I almost feel like having that conversation with them and being so open, being like, this should be your hard no. And this is the, will you call me? Can we talk
Mhm.
about it? And
Yeah. Well, on that note, so we're kind of talking about this. I've always been very curious. Our two oldest, especially our oldest, who's 23. I remember when you were getting sober, Matt, and we were talking about, hoping that we could somehow convince them that because dad was an alcoholic, you don't want to even tempt fate by drinking. Um, but we also tried to explain like how alcohol is a gateway drug. It just because it loosens your
yeah.
inhibitions and your ability for making good sound judgments. So then you get led down the path of like, well, that wasn't so bad. Maybe I could try this, and that wasn't so bad. I mean, I always feel like that's just the way I looked at alcohol. I know that it's addictive, and my father was an alcoholic. But do you ever like try to like reinforce that with your kids a little bit? Like, hey, even alcohol can get you into a really bad place because it leads you down this
Oh yeah.
other
Well,
path.
and I'm very honest with him too. My grandfather died very young because of alcohol and probably in his 50s. I didn't even know him because of it. So I often tell them, I'm like, this is why I didn't know my grandpa on this side of my family. And this is in your family. You need to be aware of it. And I do that too, because when I was a drinker, I would think about that. I would be like, this is in your family. But my mom was never really direct with me about it. She very much like skated around she never said my dad was an alcoholic. Like I never heard that. And I almost feel like if I would have had somebody, I don't know though, if somebody would have been more direct with me, like this is in your family, you should be aware, it might have changed things a little bit. But then again, I don't know because we all think our parents are such idiots when we're young anyway. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm dealing with that right now, trying to help them pick high school classes. And I'm like, no, this is the class you need to take. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, God, I'm not an idiot.
You've got to tell them to take the opposite of the one you want them to take,
I
and then they'll
guess
take the one you really
so.
want them to
Yeah.
take.
They can take college credits in high school for free. And I'm like, you need to do that. And they're like, no, everybody says they're boring. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Save you money and time down the road. Do
I
it. you know.
know, I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, believe me, I have the loans. But I mean, that's a totally different thing. But yeah, it's so hard. I just try with my kids to just be very honest and
Hmm.
and always let them know too, like this is coming from my perspective. But if you are ever in a place with alcohol where you are feeling like I'm drinking too much, like that's the time to quit. I wish that I would have
Hmm.
listened to my first time that I thought that, not my 100th time that I thought that.
Yeah, I think, a lot's changed since I got sober and even since you got sober. The gray area drinking stuff is very
Yeah.
helpful. Just the kind of notion of it's healthy not to drink, so you never had to have a problem to begin with. Just why
Yep.
would you want to put a toxin into your body? That stuff's really helpful. I think, all the trends are going slowly, but in the right direction. So that's really, really helpful to see.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things that Sherry and I have said for years, and this really it was a harder lesson for me to learn than for Sherry, but it's that for us, sobriety really wasn't a solution, but it was a prerequisite to finding the solutions. In our marriage, for instance, I really thought, I went from thinking alcohol is not the problem, it's got to be something else, to going, oh, alcohol is the problem. That's why we argue. And so I thought when I quit, that would all dry up. I think you knew, Sherry, that there were deeper problems. Maybe because you were the sober one, you could tell there were deeper problems. Um, so I want you to, if you would, Sarah, react to that. Were there things, whether relationship wise or otherwise, that you had hoped sobriety would be the silver bullet, and then you got sober and realized, there's still work to do?
Oh God, I'm trying to decide because I'm just like, I was totally that pink cloud person. I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, I was like, oh my God, quitting drinking has solved everything. I was like, this is amazing. Why didn't anybody tell me this life hack sooner? But I will
When you
say,
say pink cloud, did it stick around,
oh
or was
my,
that a period of
yes,
time before that
no,
cleared up?
it's stuck around for so long. I feel like I'm still on the pink cloud most of the time.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
I have bad days and I know that drinking won't fix them. And I know that it's just like I'm a realist, like bad days happen. And like I don't want people to think it's this toxic positivity in my life. I did deal with some really bad anxiety before I quit drinking, and it went away when I quit drinking. And I was like, whoa, look at me. I'm fixed that because I quit drinking. That anxiety came back. And I was like, okay, I will quit caffeine. I had then quit smoking weed too. I was like, God, I'm quitting everything to try to get rid of this anxiety. And it did just last year, it kept getting worse and worse. And it was to the point where I was having like, basically a panic attack while I was sitting on my couch at home. And
mm.
life was very overwhelming last year, too. Ryan's dad was very, very sick, had been for a very long time. And then he passed away in May. And I mean, we're building a house. Like our life is stressful. But that was probably the
And
biggest.
just to clarify, you don't have to go into the details.
That's what I was
But
going to say.
you aren't working with a builder who's building a house for you. You are
No.
physically building a house.
Like
Yeah.
they have on the work belts and they've got the hammer and
What's
the
your
nail gun. They're doing it.
What's your other Instagram account if people want it?
Uh,
That's 1 foot off the grid.
Yep, 1 foot off the grid. And that's mainly YouTube. We've done a whole vlog about building our own house. Yeah, we're the builders. When people say, "Oh, I've built a house too. It was really stressful dealing with all the contractors." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And I'm like, "It was stressful when we raised a beam over our heads." Like
Okay, so I
when we told our
derailed you, and
kids, "Go inside. Don't want to see mom and dad die if that happens."
yeah.
Just make sure to have the phone
Yeah,
ready
the
for
phone.
911.
So
We did
Ryan's
not want.
dad's sick. You're really, really building a house. Lots and lots of stress last
Yeah,
year.
yes.
Anxiety's building.
And then I finally was like, okay, enough is enough. And I feel like because I was angry that I was sober and having this anxiety, but I was finding like, you're sober, like trust your intuition. Cause I think I kept trying to say, it's all these other things. It's not you.
Mhm.
You're not, this is not real. You just need to relax. You just need to calm down. Like that was me in my head. And I finally was like, you need to go to a doctor. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like it happened, like it was on, I think it was the weekend where we were at my father-in-law's funeral. Like I was
Oh
calling, trying
wow.
to figure out, like, I have to get an appointment. And it's because I had driven to meet Ryan and he said, "What took you so long?" And I said, "I couldn't drive over the bridge over the Columbia River. I kept
Mm.
detouring and I couldn't get myself to go over it. And I mean, I still have issues driving over bridges right now. I'm still working on that. But we have so many bridges around us. And I was like, this is impacting your life in major ways. And I'd been panicking a lot in the car and I had my two kids with me and I was like, no more. I I feel like being alcohol free has helped me trust my gut a little bit more and
Yeah.
believe that those feelings are real because it's really easy to blow it off and say my life is stressful and all these things. But like talking to a doctor, talking to a psychiatrist, and hearing the psychiatrist say, hey, this isn't pretend. You're having these
Yeah.
feelings. Let's get you on some medication that I think will help. Like that helped immensely. So I think that's probably the one where it didn't fix it. And it did make it
Yeah.
go away for a little while. But when it finally came back, I think it helped me so much. Now I just got to go on a bridge driving crash course
Yeah.
so I can get over that.
Well, I think whether it's building anxiety and sobriety or some other thing, I think the fact that you recognized it, that you didn't relapse because of it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it took me 10 years to get sober. And during that 10 years, I had periods of long-term sobriety. And one thing or another, usually anxiety and depression, wasn't getting better. And I would say, you know what? If I'm going to have to live with this, I'd rather just live with it as a drinker. And
Yeah.
so my relapses weren't like, you know, something triggered me and I ran to the liquor store. They were like well thought out relapses and they were based on not finding a better way, a better option for dealing with, emotional imbalance or stress or things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really awesome that you listen to your instincts and you recognize that alcohol wasn't going to solve the problem. And
Yeah.
I think that you talked a little bit about it, but your frustration, I think that's really interesting. Like, hey, I'm sober. It was supposed to fix this. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Was that part of what prevented you from listening to your instincts and going to the doctor sooner?
Probably. And it's when you said too, like you had very well thought out relapses. I
Mm-hmm.
had quit smoking weed for 250 days, somewhere around there. I had a counter going for it. And this was in 2024. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it. And then my anxiety got really bad. And it was like anxiety and depression. And I was like, oh, it's probably perimenopause. It's all these things. And I read somewhere, I probably looked it up. Oh, weed raises estrogen. Like, oh, well, that's probably what I
Mm-hmm.
need. And it was very like, I went to the weed store. I was like, okay, I'm going to start smoking weed again. Cause if I feel like this, like exactly what you said. And then when it came back this next time, I was like, absolutely not. Weed didn't fix it last time. You got right back to where you were the time before so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And you just like, you've got to figure this out a different way. So I do think that I was frustrated and I had relapsed on something else. And I think sometimes people don't take weed relapses as serious, but it was really important to me to be 100% sober. And then I was like, okay, if this is still, and I know there's people out there that say if you're on an antidepressant, you're not 100% sober, but those people are crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those
You
people, I'm
know,
like, whoa, that's like, this has really helped my brain chemistry. And I'm not saying that this is what everybody should do. I mean, I tried every path
Mhm.
possible before then. So,
well, it's a tool in the toolbox, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's one of the options. It may work for people. It may not work
yeah,
for another person, and but it's definitely
Mhm.
it doesn't make any sense not to keep the option open. We've all got
yeah.
our own individual path in that regard. So you mentioned that you and Ryan were each other's drinking buddies, but you had to have friends and family outside of the two of you. How did they react to your sobriety? Were they like, because you didn't necessarily need to own the label of alcoholic, were they surprised that you were suddenly sober? What was the reaction?
I didn't tell people for quite a while. I just told
Okay.
people, like, I'm taking a break. I'm not drinking for a while. And then as I could tell, like, I'm more serious about this. This is really changing me in a lot of good ways. Then I slowly started telling people, like, I didn't even tell my sister, but she finally said, hey, my husband saw that maybe you're not drinking. He saw it on Facebook. Like, because I think I made a post about drinking more kombucha and it wasn't even alcohol related, but I think he kind of read between the lines. And then I was like, yeah, Brian and I quit about 3 weeks ago. And I think I'm really quitting. And I thought, oh God, this is so scary. What is she going to say? And she was like, that's really cool, man. Like, that's it. And I was like, oh, oh, thank God. And I mean, my sister was the easiest person to tell it to, but I mean, I drank a lot with my sister. Turns out I was the pusher to her. Like, you should keep drinking. Come on. And as I've watched her now through sober lens, I was like, oh my God, she's such a normie with her alcohol. And I was the one being like, come on, let's get drunk. And then I've slowly like gained courage to tell people after that. But it definitely took like my drinking buddies. I just was like, I don't even know how I'm going to deal with that. And I didn't want to hang out with them because that felt scary. I didn't want to drink. They were like, there were some people where it was too much to tell them. And it was the wrong
Has your
path.
social, sure. Has your social circle kind of turned over? I mean, it's been 6 years. Do you have people that you didn't like necessarily break up with, but you just faded away from because you don't have mutual interests anymore?
Yeah, there are some people. I think a lot of it has been more with our move
Yeah.
and our kids being 14, and I feel like you're just their Uber driver at this point. And was some of that. I did lose one really good friend, and that was really upsetting. And I found out that she's actually quit drinking, and that one was hard. And it was over me saying something really mean when I was drunk and not remembering it at all. So there are things where, and I think it had finally become to a point to her where she couldn't let it go. And I was just like, I've apologized so many times. There's nothing else I can do type thing. But that one's really hard because we were each other's best drinking buddies. And it's hard to imagine like how we could have been each other's best sober buddies. But otherwise, everybody else has just been kind of like friends go in a rotation, I guess.
Yeah. I know you didn't do it with this motivation, but it's kind of funny to think about the fact that you're building this house in the woods that it almost sounds like taking extreme measures to cut ties with your social circle. We're going to become off the grid hermits to avoid, but even though that's not the reason you're doing what you're doing
at all.
it does create kind of a natural though, like, hey, no, I can't drive however long back to where I used to live and hang out on a Friday night because that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and people didn't want to come to see us because we lived in a camper trailer and had a composting outhouse. Like, hey, you can come hang out on our land. We'd love to have you. And it's like people are like, yeah, no thanks. But
I've seen your view. I think they're going to start knocking on your door again. They're going to come out of the woodwork.
Right? I do have one very good friend who came up multiple times and helped us build. And like, even she knows nothing about building, but she's like, I will make you a sandwich, like whatever I can do to help. And she thought our composting outhouse was great. When she found out we had indoor plumbing, she was like, huh.
That is a big step, for society and just for Sarah and Ryan.
Exactly. Oh my God. It was a huge step.
It's a big deal. Well, this is great. When we come back from our ad break, we're going to talk a little bit about resentment processing, dealing with things from the past, something Sherry and I are sadly very familiar with. But first, we want to tell our listeners about our sponsors. We are sponsored by SoberLink. SoberLink is the premier remote alcohol monitoring system, combining cutting-edge technology with compassionate design to support accountability in recovery and family law. It's the top-of-the-line handheld breathalyzer. Today, we're talking with Sara about techniques and tools to make sobriety stick and make relationships work. Sara and her husband built a house together with no prior experience. They are quite familiar with learning to implement new tools to get the job done. Relationship repair is no different. We need to choose the right tools for the job and put them to work for us. That's where SoberLink comes in. SoberLink is not just a handheld breathalyzer you can buy at the drugstore or on the internet, a cheapie that breaks or gives unreliable results. SoberLink's best-in-class service and product combination includes built-in facial recognition and tamper detection, expert in-house support, email, daily, weekly, or monthly reporting that's court admissible in all 50 states and Canada, unlimited testing days, and scheduled testing to build accountability and trust. SoberLink is the right tool for bringing trust back into a relationship wrecked by alcoholism.
Let me tell you what SoberLink is to me. It's a sign that you're serious this time, that you hear me when I tell you I can't trust you, that you're willing to put your ego aside for a second and do something for me, for our family. SoberLink is an indication that you love me more, that you love the kids more, than you are selfish about doing it your way.
Right now, SoberLink is offering Untoxicated Podcast listeners a free offer ID valid for a $100 enrollment bonus. Go to soberlink.com/untoxicated.
Claim your offer ID for a $100 enrollment bonus. There's no commitment required to claim your offer ID while this promotion lasts. You can use your $100 enrollment bonus when you're ready to place your order. To claim your offer ID, you will only be asked to provide your name and email address. No personal details, no commitment, no credit card number. To claim your offer ID for your $100 enrollment bonus, please go to soberlink.com/untoxicated.
The Untoxicated Podcast is part of a 501c3 nonprofit research organization.
We learn from you, our listeners, and we share with you what we learn. It is a growth and discovery-oriented symbiotic relationship, a partnership, a team, a family. Matt, do you have any more synonyms you would like for me to read?
No, that's good for now. Okay. Right now, though, we are trying to learn more about your experiences with emotional safety and the opposite of emotional safety, emotional abuse. Whether you are wondering if you have experienced emotional abuse in your relationship, or whether you're wondering if your behavior could be considered emotionally abusive, we have a confidential, easy-to-take survey ready to help you better understand what you've experienced. Our survey will only take a minute or two to complete, and as I said, we will hold your response in strict confidentiality.
Please go to untoxicatedsurvey.org to take the survey. As a thank you for participating in our research, we will share helpful resources, including a free ebook, and we will respond directly to you to share our feedback on your experiences.
And if our connection and communication leads to you deciding to join one of our programs, right now, and for a limited time, we are offering a free trial month.
Free resources, including a free ebook, free feedback from us, and a free month of participation. This really feels like family, or a team, or a conclave, or a swarm, or a gaggle, or a murder of crows.
See how I made you do that again?
Yes, I see that.
Yeah. Please go to untoxicatedsurvey.org. All right, Sarah. We want to talk about resentment processing. Resentment processing to us means looking at instances that happened in the past, usually where alcohol was involved in one way or the other, and talking them through. It's not necessarily about apology, although it can be sometimes. It's very different from the amends process. It's about validating each other's experience. And I know me as a drinker, I had some significant amounts of blackout and brownout experiences where my memory, you could call it a little skitch. And so when Sherry's clear memory was of something painful, it was important for me to validate her experience. So is that something that you and Ryan have felt compelled to do, any kind of resentment processing like that?
I feel like our resentment processing has probably happened with other people and with just kind of, gosh, and I don't even know if I've always done it. In AA, you're supposed to go make amends. And I know I have not done that the way that AA says to, but it has been nice to have somebody who gets it with Ryan that I can say, I remember I did this dumb thing when I was drunk and I feel like it was rude to this person and I was able to talk it out with him. I'm trying to think of any instances where it was like he said something that really turned me the wrong way or vice versa. And I more feel like it's been us getting to be able to help each other process how we handled situations or things that happened with other people, if that makes sense.
You are very kind of authentic and vulnerable and open I'm curious, being a man myself, and knowing a lot of men, we typically are not quite as vulnerable and kind of open to explore as you are. And I don't want to make this all about Ryan, but I'm curious, is he as willing to go there as you are, or does he do a little more stuffing than you do, or is he communicative like you are?
I don't want to say that he does more stuffing than me. I feel like I'm the queen of stuffing it deep down
Oh,
inside.
really?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. It's like, well, that used to be my thing when I was a drinker too. I remember telling people like, "Oh, I don't need to feel feelings. I'm just going to stuff them down deep inside and I'll take them with me and I'll die with them." Like, and I thought
Well,
that is so funny,
alcohol definitely helps with that. If you
right?
want an assistance tool for
Yeah.
stuffing.
And when I quit drinking, I was crying all the time. I was like feeling all these emotions, and I was like, why am I feeling all these emotions? I don't like emotions. So it's like, I'm trying to think with Ryan. I do think he does a really good job of being vulnerable with me. I will say he was present during a sober retreat reunion at our house, and he had to go sit out on the deck a few times. He's like, "You ladies just want to talk about your feelings all the time." I'm like, "That's because talking about feelings is the best." And I was like, I don't understand why you want to be a part of this. This is like free therapy. But
Yeah.
but he is, I feel like he is pretty good at being vulnerable with me. I mean, especially with his dad passing away in the last year and having to process a lot with him being so sick for an extended period of time and just those feelings that can come along with that of like, was I a good enough son? Was I there enough? And I think Ryan is very healthy on the way he processes things. And even if he's not getting it out, I can usually tell. And then I'll kind of say, hey, what's up? And it's usually like is it me? It's usually me
Mm,
trying to figure out, like, are you upset with me? Or are you like upset with other things? And if you're upset with other things, like, let's talk about it. And if you're upset with me, let's talk about it.
that's great. Well, open communication is both important and usually pretty hard in
Yeah.
relationships.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm glad you guys are finding some success there. What about your natural instinct to stuff? How have you worked that out? How have you gone from that to, how you talk so openly now?
I definitely still stuff things. It takes me a while. I catch myself a little bit more quickly saying, hey, this, like in my brain, telling myself, like, this thing is bothering you, like the avocado pit. Like, it is
Right.
time to bring it up, or else it's going to become an issue. It's like, I think I saw something one time, like divorce does happen because of basically the avocado pit, but they used something
Mhm.
else. And I think like it was that was enough for me to bring it up and be like, "Hey, this is so irritating when you say this and like when you do this." And it's basically you saying, "I don't you're not worth changing my behavior for. You're not worth doing this one little thing." And I
Mhm.
don't think I ever would have said that if I was drinking. It just would have instead been like another explosion over the thing and not being able to find why it really bothered me and figuring it out on my end so then I could say it for for him too. And does that answer your question? I'm not I feel
Yeah.
like I didn't quite get
Yeah.
there.
No, no, I think you're doing great. It does kind of lead into, you talked about how you were gonna push these emotions down and take them to your grave, and we talked about the degree to which alcohol helps with that. In that way, I think of alcohol as like a maladaptive coping mechanism, and we've all got things behind the alcohol that we're trying to self-medicate, and that's one of the areas where I have the most kind of interest and curiosity. Do you feel like you've found those things, those underlying issues? Have you done the work to kind of uncover the things that you're using alcohol medicinally for?
I have slowly found them. I feel like I'm like the slowest learner sometimes with this stuff. I
It's
feel
a
like,
process.
oh God, it really is. And in the beginning, I was like, there's nothing. Like, I just I just drank too much because I liked alcohol. Like, why did I drink too much? Because I liked it. And then I started being like, okay, but your drinking wasn't normal. And like I was just talking to another friend today. She's like, do you know normal people? Like when we talk about normal drinkers, they have like 4 glasses of wine a year. Like that's normal. And I'm like, it's so crazy that people can even do that, right? And so it's like, God, it took me so long. Like part of it was feeling like I never fit in. I've always felt like the outcast. I have always felt like the girl that's not like the other girls. Some of that is so in my own head, and I can find my own people. But because of that, I do feel like when I would hang out with certain people, I would like alcohol gave me the ability to feel like I was fitting in with them and that I didn't need to be myself because I could be drink and party Sarah. And everybody liked drink and party Sarah. So that I had to work on a lot and figure out that it's okay if people don't like me. And that just means we're not each other's people, and that's okay.
Hmm.
And then I've started kind of working a lot on this idea of like, I never win. I'm I'm the person who's always second best, third best, and really starting to unpack that. That's kind of like a new one for me where I'm like, "Oh, that's something." And then trying to like work on the people pleasing piece where I want to make everybody feel comfortable because I have a dad who flips his lid. He still does. I love him very much, but he, but I always felt like if I could keep the peace in the house, like then he wouldn't flip his lid as much. And now I notice I do
Uh-huh.
that in other ways. I do it to like try to protect Ryan from getting mad at the kids. I'll notice they didn't do a certain chore and I'll just go do it really quick because I don't want to deal with the everybody being angry at each other type thing. And these are things that I'm trying to work through. And sometimes I still kind of go, well, it's just easier if I go behind the scenes and fix little things. But it's something that I've been able to talk to Ryan about, though, a lot more easier and say, I constantly feel like I'm protecting your peace, and that's not my job. And I need to let it
No.
go. And I would say that's probably my biggest one that I'm constantly working on and getting a teeny, like maybe a 0.5% better at it each day. Well, probably less,
Well,
but it's
I'm really
something,
impressed.
right?
I'm impressed that you know the identity of it, that you've tied that back to childhood. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I'm a big time people pleaser in recovery as well. And I think that understanding where that comes from, it never being okay to be less than the stellar student. And if I'm going to play a sport, I better be good at it. And, that kind of a stuff. And then eventually we internalize that. So we're taught it and then we internalize it. And then we, go out in the world and try to make everybody happy. Very, very, very relatable and definitely hard work with feeling like you're always second best or third or stuff like that. That's really interesting considering what you do for a living. I mean, social media is just a comparison machine.
Oh,
Is
God.
that hard for you to,
It is.
oh, this got this many likes and this got this many, like, is that a hard measuring stick to be put up against
Yeah.
all the time?
Oh, yeah. It really is. This is gonna sound so terrible. I mute a lot of people. I follow a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people in the sober space and then I mute them. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
because I don't like them. It is usually because either they're getting in my head or I want to make sure that my ideas are my ideas and that they're coming
Mm-hmm.
from my authentic story and I'm not seeing other people's stories and going, oh, yeah, I could shift that into my thing. And I always tell people that even when you quit drinking, like mute, unfollow. You get to
Mm-hmm.
craft your algorithm to be what you need it to be. That's the really cool
Mm-hmm.
part of an algorithm, like work with it. And and there's people where if I notice with another content creator that they are making me feel less than, then that's just I don't have to unfollow. I can just unmute and then I can turn it back on later to see what they're up to if I want to. And but that it gets super tricky. Or to see like I tell my husband all the time, I'm like every time I see that somebody wrote a book, that drives me crazy because that's been on my
Mm-hmm.
list. That's been on my vision board for the last 4 years. Write a book. And I built a house. And I have to be like, well, I built a house. It's something different. But, and even Ryan noticed it because he's our editor for our One Foot Off the Grid for our One Foot Off the Grid vlog. And he'll see people and he's like, God, those people have so many more followers than us. They have so many more views all the time. And I'm like, it's like you got to find your thing that you did. Like other people wrote a book, I built a house. You got to find your thing that you're like, well, I did this thing. And I have to get in my own head
Yeah.
and say, people are watching me saying, well, she did all this cool shit. I just don't think they're watching because I'm actually living it.
Yeah. Well, I, for one, think it's ridiculously cool what you've done. But this is like my biggest fear for the next generations. We used to go home after school, and then if we participated in after school activity, we did that. And then we went home, and all the comparison was over for the day because
Mm-hmm.
you're in your safe little cocoon of your family.
Yeah.
And now you go home, and that goddamn device is still with you, and the
Yeah.
comparison and critique can continue literally, except for when you're sleeping. And I think it's really cool that you recognize it and that you're working on saying, hey, this is my path and my path is different. But it just scares the boogers out of me for our kids and everyone from now on into eternity, I guess, because we're always going to carry these stupid things around with us.
Right. It's not
So
going anywhere. I know
yeah,
I already talked to my kids about mute, mute people.
yeah,
They don't know you did it. It's like you don't have to feel bad. It's like you
yeah,
don't see them. And they're like, okay. And even like my daughter does some stuff on social media and I'm like, block and release. And
yeah,
she'll say it to me sometimes because I'll be like, this guy said this about me. And she's like, block. And I'm like, okay.
yeah.
I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good that you guys are working together. That's great. Okay, so there is a lot of content out there in the sober space, in the recovery world, about sex while drinking and then sex after sobriety. But most of the content that's out there is designed for and spoken about by single people. There's not a lot of people in relationship that talk about this stuff. So, at the risk of making you uncomfortable, and I hope that we don't, can you talk a little bit about differences in your marital sex life, drinking versus sobriety? Was sober sex uncomfortable? Was there pardon the pun, but was there a hump that had to be gotten over?
Gosh, I feel like sober sex is a million times better. Just for anybody that's wondering.
Love it.
And it's better in so many ways. I always hope my kids don't hear these. They have caught a few of them and it's incredibly embarrassing for them and me. So Owen and Lindy, if you're listening to this, stop now. But they shouldn't be. I don't see why they would come on this podcast. But no offense to you and Sherry. But I've
We
got
want listeners, but not your kids. Your
right,
kids not
exactly.
listening was just fine with us.
Just fine, right?
Yeah.
But it is like I thought I was the lady who was like, one glass of wine maybe could loosen me up.
Hmm.
But if we were going to one bottle, then I was a shut door. Like once I
Okay.
was drunk, I was like, I don't want to have sex. Forget that. I'm working on a buzz. I'm working on one thing right now and it's getting drunk. And I feel I would have to ask Ryan if he agrees, but I feel like our sex life has improved since I've quit drinking, since we've quit drinking. It's something we talk about now. I don't think we could have talked about it when we were drinkers. Um, and one thing we did, and it was the Paired app for a little while. And it's like an app where you ask there's a question that's asked each day and you answer it, and the other person gets to read your answer after you've answered the question too, if that makes sense. That was really helpful. We
Look,
were sober when we did it. It was kind of fun. And they would ask a lot of sex questions, which is something where I was like, oh my God, I can't talk about this. And I could always tell when Ryan was reading it and I'd have to like go into a different room. I was like, I can't even be in here while he's reading this. But it really did help us kind of open up, become a little more playful about it. And I mean, God, we're like, we are together all the time, me and Ryan. We work
right.
together, we build a house together, we both work from home. I feel like that can be a recipe for disaster in a relationship.
Uh-huh.
But we are very much able to navigate it and talk pretty honestly about sex and kind of, if it's been a while, be like, hey, roomie, do you want to stop
Yeah,
being
yeah,
roommates and take it to the next level? And
yeah.
I feel like we've brought a lot more humor into our sex life too in sobriety, which you wouldn't think you would do. But
Yeah.
it's just like,
We,
go ahead.
we talk a lot about emotional safety, and then going from emotional safety to emotional intimacy, where you're able to connect verbally before the physical. It
Yeah.
sounds like the app that you were talking about is a great tool for that. Do you find that there's comfort in just being like raw and honest with each other? And does that help with the sex life?
Oh, yeah. That definitely helps. And it's like, you have to be able to be like, I have to know that I can tell Ryan anything. That's my number one. I have to know that he is there to take care of me and I'm his top priority. And I feel like having um, honest conversations gets you there and helps you to see that. And it's like, I can tell him now too, like, no, I don't want to. I'm in a bad mood. Like sometimes it's
Hmm.
about him. Sometimes it's
Hmm.
about like the state of the world. Like, sorry, I'm depressed, dude.
Yeah.
Not going to work right now. But, and even being able to talk to him, like when I was having terrible anxiety, like knowing I had somebody to lean on during that, that wasn't going to judge me and was kind of like, okay, let's figure this out. And, uh, yeah, all that stuff. I feel like the emotional piece has got to be there. And you have to feel
Yeah.
safe with your partner. And that's one thing I talk to people a lot about too. They're like, oh my God, I'm so nervous to have sober sex. This feels so weird. And I have to remind people like, this is your husband. Like people who have had kids, like your husband has seen you in the most vulnerable position ever. Like, this is your guy. And go on a date and go feel like you're high schoolers again. And then kind of have fun. It's like I felt like having sex in sobriety felt like getting to like kiss a stranger because me and Ryan had
Yeah.
been drinkers forever together. So it was kind of like getting to date someone new. It was very exciting.
Yeah. I know you are in close contact with your followers, with your listeners, with your watchers. Is sex or intimacy or both? Is that a topic that comes up in your community? Do you
It's
hear from people?
it's not something that comes up in like on social media very often, but it is something that comes up within my online community, the Day Makers, where people will kind of like, especially if we're on a call and it happens to be all women, because my community is probably 95% women, and then 5% amazing men, my amazing woke men that I have in my group. And I mean the thing is too, even with the men in my group, I think the ladies would feel so safe talking about it. But it is something where, I will bring it up from time to time just to do a check-in, like, intimacy check with the ladies, and especially if there's that piece where you can tell they're not feeling seen by their husband, and that's where
Mhm.
I think it is the emotional side first, to kind of
Well,
talk to their husbands. And
you said something really important that I don't want to skip over. You said that you feel comfortable now if you're just not feeling it. If it's just tonight's not the night, I'm not, what for whatever reason, um, feeling comfortable saying no. Is that something that has gotten better in sobriety? And let me ask a little bit more of a leading question. I feel like a lot of women that we meet, including the one sitting next to me, at least at times have said yes just because they're people pleasers. Have said yes just to make sure that there wasn't awkward tension in the relationship.
yeah,
But it sounds you've gotten to a point where you feel comfortable saying no without worrying about that. Am I reading that right?
I won't say like 95% of the time, I'm like 95% of the time I do. And then I mean,
Hmm.
and most of the time I'm game.
Yeah.
That makes me sound really easy, doesn't it?
Well, you're married. I think it's okay.
But it but it's just there's times, and it's like, I don't know, this is very TMI, but our bedroom is in a loft in our house. Like we are essentially in the living room of our house where our bedroom is. So we have to be pretty strategic about sexy
Uh-huh.
time. So it is very much like if it's Friday, it's usually it's usually on the agenda. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like last Friday it was just like, no, like it was just I was so like, oh my God, there's just a lot. The world is very heavy all the time, but it was
Hmm.
very heavy that day. And I think for both of us, and it's like, and so I think we were both able to be like that this is not our day. And I don't
Yeah.
worry that Ryan doesn't think that I don't find him attractive if I say that. And I
Yeah.
don't worry that he's gonna be like, well, that's it then, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But
You're both secure enough that you can deal with some, bumps and some detours. I love that you have a scheduled day though. That's kind of or,
it's
semi-scheduled, just kind of
semi-scheduled. Yeah. It
yeah.
is kind of like you got to work this into the weekdays now, or it's like not happening.
You got jobs and kids and you're building a house and there's world stress. Of course we have to schedule this stuff and we have to talk about it. And if we don't
Well,
do both, we can go down a pretty dark hole where it's not happening and there's a lot of resentment building. So I
yeah.
give you a bunch of kudos for both of those.
Yeah. And I saw something, I don't know, it was on like Rich Roll's podcast. I don't know which lady was, it could have been Esther Perel, who knows, but she was talking about like maintenance sex and how there's sometimes you're having sex with your partner because you know it's important for the relationship. My husband's like
Mm-hmm.
outside honking. He said, I hope you couldn't hear that. But it is like,
No, but is he applauding? Yeah, maintenance
probably,
sex.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that. I like all the sex. But I think sometimes I even just, this makes it sound not very magical, but sometimes you just kind of look at it like this. This is the person that I love, the person that I'm married to. This is a very important part of my marriage. Maybe it's not for everybody, but like I always tell them, like, I want to be like the couple where people are like, how are they keeping it going? Like, how do they
Yeah.
do it? And how we do it is we schedule it in on Fridays,
Yeah. Well,
which isn't
uh,
very like spontaneous, really.
no, but it's so real what you're talking about, and it's so important when I hear terms like maintenance sex, I think it's really healthy that we recognize that, there are differences between kind of male anatomy and female anatomy, and not just anatomy, but emotions and hormones and all of that. And the purpose, the driving force can be different. I feel like for me, I've got the same goal and, this, like, I get the same out of it most times, but I feel like for you, Sherry, you have a variety of different reasons that you say yes. And sometimes it's because you're feeling emotionally close to me and, you want that closeness to continue. And even if, you're not up for big time, sexy time night, you're up for the closeness to continue a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Am I saying that, vaguely enough? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think there's 5 reasons you have sex, and I think there's one reason I have sex.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
And I think maintenance sex is fine as long as it's not like obligatory, like
Yeah.
wifely duty sex. Like that, I think is terrible and needs
Yeah.
to be abolished, right? But as long as there's a loving intent and an emotionally intimate intent, I think there can be a variety of reasons.
Yeah. And even when you
All
say
right.
like the reasons for Sherry and you, I know that for me, a reason is to feel close to my husband. I
Yeah.
want to and I feel very close to him when we're intimate together. And I feel very close to him in other ways, but I think sometimes because we do work together and we talk shop together and we build together, sometimes it's hard to remember that like, oh my gosh, I love this person so much. And that's
Yeah.
something that sex gives me. And I feel like it gives him that too, just where we can connect and go, I remember why I chose you. It's not because
Yeah.
you're a good business partner.
Yeah. Yeah, no, good stuff. Um, okay, I want to talk a little bit about your public persona. Was your first you mentioned that there was a Facebook post about kombucha, but sounds like that's just kind of toe in the water. Was your first foray into No More Wasted Days? Was that social media first, podcast second? Can you talk about how this all you got the ball rolling?
So no more wasted days came out of me doing some what is it? Sober October. I had to remember what month it was and what it rhymed with. I did a Sober October challenge with my friends and family. I had been sober for 6 months or alcohol free for 6 months. And I was like, this is changing my life. I had started to share a little bit about it on my personal Facebook page. And like, I quit drinking. These are some positives I've noticed. This is the book I read. I never thought I would do something like this. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to host a Sober October group. And it was just very nothing to it. Like, here's a group, let's post, let's not drink. And then the next month, I was like, I bet I could record some videos to go along with this, which I love about my 30-day challenge videos is they have remained the same. I've re-recorded them, but the topics have remained the same. I recorded those when
Mm,
I was basically 7 months sober. So they were
mm.
things that were very on my brain. And I sat down with my iPhone and I recorded everything. One take. I would trim the end, trim the beginning, talk about the topic I wanted to talk about. I came up with 30 videos. And then I did like No Booze November. I think I did a December to Remember. And it was all just with friends and family. And my husband was like, I think you're like doing something here. Like you've got
Mm.
videos, like, well, and he's an entrepreneur. So he's like, hey, I think this is
He's got an eye
something.
for it.
Yeah.
He knows
But
it when he sees it.
he turns everything into a business. I love him very much, but everything. Like I made some shopping bags out of chicken feed bags and he's like, "You should sell these on Etsy." And I was like, "No." But I was just like, that's just a hobby. People have hobbies. But with this, I was like, you know what? I do really like talking about this. This has changed my life. I'll try it out. So I started, I want to say, I probably did Facebook and Instagram and nothing was happening. And I didn't really do very much. And then TikTok started getting big because I quit in 2019. And TikTok, everybody keeps talking about it. You got to get on TikTok. Got it. And I was like, I'm not going on TikTok. Lots of dancing. No, thank you. And then I went on TikTok. And I just told myself I'll make a video every other day for like a month and see if anything happens. And I didn't know what to do. And I pointed to fake words. I still point to fake words. Okay. I still love it. I still dance. I will still try out a TikTok trend. I am not above that. And
Good.
I'm
Because
like,
you bring joy with your
I,
facial expressions and dancing and all of
yeah,
it.
all of it. And am I a good dancer? No, but I have a lot of fun. But and then I had a TikTok go viral. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I was about ready to quit No More Wasted Days. I had been doing it and I was like, I've got this challenge. No one does it. No one wants to engage in my Instagram stuff. And then I went on TikTok and I found my community on TikTok and it just grew from there. And then it all started snowballing and I refilmed all my videos in my yurt once we lived up here and and now I help people. I think I do the 30-day challenge 4 times a year right now and I have a 100-day challenge that I do 2 times a year with people.
That's great. You mentioned the Daymakers. That's your group of people
Yes, and that's
that you interact
ongoing.
with.
Yep.
And you said that's like 95-5 as far as percentage women and men. Do you feel like that is representative of your social media audience as well? Is it mostly women?
Probably. Yeah. I talk more to women. I mean, I'm a woman, so that's my experience
Yeah.
more.
I mean, that
And
helps.
yeah. And
Yeah.
on Facebook some men follow me and they tend to be the wrong men and they like to be really mean to me in the comments, but they don't know that they're just helping me out a lot.
Yeah, because your real audience reads that and gets,
They
right?
do. It's pretty exciting because it's just like I'll say something that I don't find controversial at all, and then I just no offense, Matt, but those white men can
Well,
really get they
I've
can really get aggro over things, and I'm just like I'm just a lady saying my thoughts.
I have to say, I am in some demographic categories that are becoming harder and harder to defend. So I'm not even going to try. I'm just
I
going to,
know.
let that roll.
I say it to my husband all the time too, and he's like, "Oh my God, I know." He's like, "I'm sorry," because I'll read him some comments from men, and he's like, "Oh my God," and I'm like, "Only that only happens on Facebook." So
Yeah,
if you're listening to me and you found me on Facebook and you are a man, I know you're the right man.
that's
I
great.
I know that you're a good guy.
That's great. Well, I'm sure you're protective of your day makers too,
I
and
am.
you vet carefully the 5% of dudes that you let in there. And I'm sure anyone that can hang with 95% women, that's a
It's
special person. And we have a little
We're
of that
kind of
in
the
our group
same
too.
in our
Yeah,
echoes. Yeah.
we got
We
some
have
special
our
dudes in ours
very
too.
special guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever we do our marriage retreats, there's one couple that the male he likes to call my car when it's mostly the women, the estrogen mobile. I can't even say that. And I'm like, do you even know how welcomed and how like we love to have you in our car so then we can just like give you all the information. Like we're telling you what to do, we're telling you how to act, we're telling you how to behave to your wife.
Oh,
Like, like you are getting the inside baseball. I said a sports analogy.
there you go.
Sports, but it's like, so much can be learned when you do put yourself in the other role a lot of times. Like they can glean so much from the groups and then they can take it out and they can spread the word to the other white men out there.
The estrogen deal.
That's what I'm like hoping is like not all white men are dicks, but they often are.
I know. And I say that and I think of the men in my group and I love them so much in a totally platonic way. But like, it's just like, I always think, thank God I have such amazing men in my group that get these
Yeah.
women, make women feel safe to say, hey, is this normal? It's just like, it's a cool thing. And it's because I'm out there being the lady pointing to words and stuff.
That's great. Well, it takes a lot of self-confidence to point to invisible words and then put them in later. And
Yep.
that's what I want to end on is self-confidence. I happen to be a believer that self-confidence, whether you are the drinker or the partner of a drinker who's also in recovery and working toward growth and curiosity and just the best version of yourself. I happen to believe self-confidence is a big component of that. How do you feel about that? How do you react to that statement? How important is self-confidence?
Well, I realized how much self-confidence I gained when I quit drinking. And I started keeping the promise to myself to not drink each day, which
Mm,
it was the first time I had kept a promise like that to myself. Like I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to be committed to it. If I have one drink, I'm back to day zero. Like I made that decision very early on and it was amazing how my confidence grew to trust myself. And it's strange because I thought I had a lot of confidence and it turns out I could get more and put myself out there
mm,
and just believe that my intuition about myself is spot on. And that is something that sobriety has given me. Like to trust my gut and say, this is what I need. I don't need to worry about what everybody else is saying on Instagram or wherever, which can be hard when you're a content creator and you're on there all the time, right? But it's like, it's sobriety has given me so much confidence. And it's something that I always want people to know when they are drinking. Like, this is going to be a side effect that you didn't see coming, that is
yeah.
so rewarding.
Yeah, sobriety builds confidence. Confidence helps maintain sobriety. And then the underlying piece that we've just got to follow our gut, follow our instincts. That's so, so, so important. What a great message to end on. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I want to remind people to check out the No Wasted Days podcast and to be thoroughly supported and entertained by the No More Wasted Days Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Sara, thank you for hanging out with us here on the Untoxicated podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun.
Absolutely. Listener, did you hear something today that's valuable to you? Please support Stigma, the 501c3 organization that brings you the Untoxicated podcast. We know you're listening on your phone. Why not open that Venmo app and send a fully tax-deductible donation to at Matt-Salis with the last four digits 1412. Any amount is great and very much appreciated. That's at Matt-Salis, last four 1412. And while you've got your phone open, please go to the untoxicatedsurvey.org and click radio buttons to help us learn what you've been through. Thank you for listening to the Untoxicated Podcast. You've got this, and we've got you.